What is going on, YouTube? ModzvilleUSA here, back with another video. Today we're installing the Retro Gem in both versions of the Fat Ps2 50K series. So we've got the Gh-023, also known as the V9, as well as the Gh-026, also known as the V10. V10 is much easier, so try to grab one of those if you're building one. You don't already have a PS2 as a base. V10's nicer to work on. You'll see why. So while we're in here, you're gonna want to swap the old battery. You can measure it. Mine measured at 0.3 out of 3 volts, so replacing it's a good idea. Now while we're in here, we're installing the Picfix. I have a video of installing this in the V9, V10, and V12, all the 3 versions that need it. Essentially this saves your laser if the Mechacon crashes. Instead of destroying your laser, it will shut the console off. So here's the diagram. I have a video on the channel doing this in all 3 revisions. And little product placement, I suppose. Shameless plug. I have these on the mod shop, ModzvilleUSA.com. Go ahead and grip one if you have a V9, a V10, or a V12 PS2, or you can make these yourself. Flash it to a PIC chip. Just need 1 resistor and going raw like that. I like them on these nice little thin PCBs though. It's a little better. It's 4 wires. We got 5 volts. We got both J and K. Pretty simple pads to solder to. Careful with the resistor, you don't want to pop it. Otherwise, pretty simple stuff. And the last one is ground, pulled on the edge of the board there. So, pretty simple stuff. Save your laser from killing itself if you put in a scratch disc or a burn disc. Now this is the area, and this is the DAC, digital audio converter. And this is where we're installing the flex. Now we're doing the V9 first. This is the V9 footage here. And as you can see, it doesn't fit so cleanly. That oscillator is in the way. You actually can't see that well. But that oscillator's gotta go ASAP. So you can do it with the stock oscillator if you really want to. This is a really shitty angle. Now what I end up doing, you'll see here in a moment, is removing that and wiring it. There's no polarity to it. But your best bet is just ordering some low profile oscillators and replacing it. So here we go with the removal. You don't need a hot air station for this. I just tinned up both sides. I'm using leaded solder, not unleaded. A lot of back and forth going on of should you use leaded if the console has unleaded on it. Leaded's fine. Just use leaded. And my main reasoning here, my main logic, well, one, leaded's easier and more pleasant to work with, but with flex cables generally don't like too much heat, and it's easy to destroy them if you gotta dial up your temps too much. Unleaded needs significantly more heat than leaded to flow properly, so just use leaded. It'll be fine. So you see the strat here, just heating up each side one at a time. Not really going super duper fast, but you're gonna get it flowing. You can use the low melt. I jammed it off to the side here to lock it in place, and then I just gotta remove it. I think I fiddle around here with a bit, seeing if I can like angle it in a way to where I could leave one pad on, but that's not what I ultimately went with. The strat I went with for this, which is not recommended, I just didn't have any low profile clocks on hand, but it ended up working out fine. So if you're in a pinch, you can give this a go. But yeah, flipped it upside down, secured it to the board, and then just wired it to the pads. The polarity doesn't matter. It could be, you know, either way. So just like that. Secured it to the board there. Ran 2 wires. Easy peasy. Not recommended, but you should be fine. I was fine. Should be fine if you're in a pinch. You don't have any low profile clocks, but yeah, this worked. Don't do it if you're doing a bunch of them. Recommend to get the low profile, but so here we are. I recommend doing this pretty early on. Remove the optical out port. It gets in the way while you're working, and it's got to go anyway, so make sure to do this early on before soldering the flex. Alright guys, Editingville here, and this little update has come out today while I'm editing this, and it was realized that surround sound wasn't working in specific games. So if you want to enable that, you're going to want to add a wire right here, and then as you're finishing up with the gem installed, the other end of that wire goes to this pad on F. So definitely check the guide down below. There might be stuff added since the making of this video, but there's just one simple jumper wire from here, from the optical port to that side of pad F. Carry on. Big ups to today's sponsor, Pcbway. If you're in the market to get some PCBs manufactured, 3D print work done, or CNC machining, Pcbway has you covered. My personal favorite is the retro stuff section under shared projects. If you find a project you like, you can order one directly from the page, with the choice of having it assembled as well. The creators of these projects even get a cut from your purchase. Click the link in the description if this interests you. Now, let's get back to the show. Well, alright ladies and gentlemen, we got this at 400 times speed. I'm going to chime in here and there. We are removing some components. As you can see, I am bridging up those pins on the DAC there. We got quite a bit of bridging, which is going to be a common thing, and I'll show you how I deal with it. So we flux it up. Every time my iron is going off camera, I am cleaning it. Removing the solder, and then swipe it, flux it, clean it, swipe it. So we don't want really any solder on our iron as we're swiping it. It is absorbing up into our iron tip there, and then we're cleaning it off, doing it again. Pretty simple. You shouldn't need to use any wick. If it gets too crazy, you might want to, but yeah. bridges are gone, not a problem. It's all good. So this is my first one here. And I was just going by the books from the guide. And I believe we're going to be seeing some capped on tape here, which I don't recommend. I recommend doing UV resin or solder mask. So we, just like this, we capped in the vias below the resistors and all of the pads that are below the flex cable on those sides there. And Captain tape is kind of no bueno for this, because we're going to be using a lot of flux, and then we're going to be using a lot of IPA to clean off the flux. And the combination, I ran into this issue as I was doing this. The Captain tape gets wet, no longer sticks to the board, comes loose. All of that UV resin is the way to go. So as you can see here, I'm just kind of locking it in. Just wherever you're comfortable locking it in, make sure everything's lined up. I do believe I ran into an issue with alignment on this one, on one of the corners. So that's kind of what I learned from this one. This is my first Fat install. Once you lock it in the middle here, go to the corners before fully securing it, and just check. Just double check that those corners, you feel good. Lock the whole thing in. Check the alignment before committing, because you might need to end up adjusting it again. And if that's the case, it's better to have only soldered some of it, you know? And with this, I'm trying to explain my strategy with this, but what I like to do with these flex cables is where those teeth are. So where the teeth either grip the legs or it grips the resistor packages. You're looking at those teeth, and you're going to want a nice joint there. You don't want to really see the outline of those teeth. So you have that visual cue, is what I'm going for, that it's connected. You've got a nice meaty joint there. I'm using kind of a fat chisel tip and trying to go over it like kind of a pin at a time. When we get bridging, we deal with it. Just kind of leaving all this in so you guys see the whole process of me doing this for the first time, and kind of just winging it and having to deal with bridges and whatnot. We're just kind of transferring solder over, and you'll notice when you drag, it will kind of drag out the nice joints you get with those teeth. We see quite a bit of teeth. We don't want that. We don't want to see them teeth. We want nice meaty joints. These are double-sided, so you know it could be connected totally solid on the bottom, but we want to visually see that it's looking real nice. Got a lot of glare with the flux there, but those joints are looking pretty nice. Just watching those all look solid, and you can beep it out like this, touch the base of the pad and the back side of the resistor. You can be certain in continuity mode that you've got a solid connection. It's all the same circuit. You can beep it out like this. I think this is the best way to beep it out. Go left to right, make sure there's no bridging. None of these should be connected to the pins next to them. Just double check that. And yeah, that third one wasn't feeling too great about, so redid it. I'm sure it probably beeped fine, but I just don't want to see those teeth, man. That's what I'm going off of. You don't want to see the outline of them teeth. So yeah, I remember this being a little offset, I think. Oh no. Maybe not. I kind of had to like pull it back. Yeah, it's like kind of going over it. Oh, I remember. Yeah, the captain tape was up too close. Wasn't getting a good connection. So if you follow my Twitter, I did one that was a send-in, like a botched install kind of a deal, where someone misaligned all these pins, removing it. So I don't really understand how that happened. Still, alright, and captain tape covering the capacitor leg we need. It's nice. Loved it. Love to see it. Yeah, check that out on Twitter if you haven't seen that. That is, do not end up in that situation where all of your DAC pins are like misaligned. It is not fun to deal with. There's no wiggle room. If you have to straighten those pins, like you have to straighten those pins perfectly. They will bridge on the bottom side, like from the teeth, whatever. Like these pins need to be straight. Don't be too crazy drag soldering or anything like that. If you knock a pin out of alignment, you're gonna have a really bad time. It is not fun having to straighten these out, like, at all. They're very sturdy pins, so it's hard to knock them out of alignment, but if you do for some reason have to straighten them, it is fucking rough. Yeah, that looks better. Yeah, I remember I struggled with this side. With the alignment, captain on the capacitor, etc. So when we get to the V10, that'll be my second one, and you'll see how I've like optimized the install by quite a bit. And for continuity there, I was touching the base of the pad on the flex cable to like the top of the pin, and I used very fine like probe multimeter probes. So super duper fine. It's very easy to touch a small pin like that precisely. So this is looking pretty fucking nice, if I do say so myself. And when I'm looking over these again, I'm just looking for those teeth. Might sound silly, but it's a pretty good visual indicator if you've got a nice meaty joint. If you're just not seeing those teeth anywhere, that's a good thing. Yeah, that looked good. Here we're pulling 5 volts. The capacitor we soldered to, that would have been 3.3, I believe. Or the other way around. I'm pretty sure this is 5 volts though, coming off the V-Reg. Okay, here's where shit gets weird. Wrapping that cable around, fucking... This is not fun. It's an odd angle, because you have to kind of 360 it around. It's not difficult to solder to, but getting it in position is kind of a pain in the ass. And it's delicate, so be careful. You don't want to rip it. Once it's in place, it's easy peasy. Just lining it up is a little tough. Once I get it, I like to crease it down, just like that. Very nice. And this is also a total pain in the ass. Again, the pitch is tighter. Soldering subjectively might be difficult for you, depending on your skill level. Soldering here is not difficult. It's this alignment. It's kind of tough. Like just keeping it in place and staying still, having it perfect, and then coming in with your iron and tacking it down. Yeah. Oh. Hey, there we go. So you can just tack down one pin. Looks like I did all of them, but it's lining it up, tacking in the pin, that's a tough one. And then make it look nice. So yeah, you do that quick right angle, loop it around, and you want to make sure the traces are going up on both times when you're soldering it to the connector. These traces, you want them to look gold instead of blackish. If they're blackish, it's upside down. And there we go. I think I may have tacked it down with some UV resin, some tape, whatever. Something to hold it to the board. It's not a bad idea. Here we're pulling reset. So if you've installed a mod chip, you know this pad. Reset pad. And if you have a mod chip, you're going to already have a wire going there. So route it under the chip legs, one of the two. Then take a nice curve over here, right angle, whatever you want to do. It's a long run, so you're not going to get it to be mega aesthetic, but you can try. I route it like that. And I think that's everything. You've got that loose pad there. Well, alright, here we are on the V10. As you can see, there's no crystal in our way. Very nice. It's moved, I think, to the right there on the board. Doesn't need to be replaced. Much more comfortable to install than the V9. And as you can see, we're fucking it up again. We're bridging some pins. It's no big deal. We'll deal with that in a moment, but yeah. Push it the other way, not into the legs. It's fine though. Leaving it all in to show you how to handle it. Being real sloppy, bridging the pins. It's all good. Don't freak out. It's gonna be fine. Alright, we got it. So as you can see, we've got way too much. Way too much So I switched to my chisel tip. That fine tip there is no good for absorbing a bunch of solder. Same idea. We're fluxing, cleaning the tip, and I opted to braid it a little bit. When you got a bunch like this, you know, you might wanna wick it a little bit. It takes quite a bit of time, but that cleaned up nice and easy. But again, same idea. Big ass blob. If you're using unleaded, you're gonna have a much harder time. You're probably just gonna have to dial up your temps quite a bit. Okay, I think that one took me a little while. I just cut it. Yeah, and I'm waking up these pads here too, just to get them nice and flush for the flex cable. And here's where the strat is different. We are using UV resin. This shit is magical. So apply some with my tweezers. I got some on the pins, so I come in and I clean up those pins, and boom, it's cured. Using a UV lamp. It's very nice. So those pads are totally insulated, and you can't even see it on camera now. Here I am just pre-tinning the vias that I believe we're going to be soldering to. I believe one of these is off. It's that one. Don't pre-tin that. It's further in there, so you can see right now. I pre-tinned the wrong one there. It's no big deal. We're locking it in. Nice and easy. Nice and locked in. We're fluxing it up. Those are lined up much better. Boom, boom. We got some bridging there. I'm not gonna really worry about that yet. Right now we just wanna get everything locked in. You got the bridging, no big deal. So with this stuff, you just be patient, clean your tip, flux it, clean your tip, transfer it over. A lot of times when I have bridges on ICs like this, I'll flow it out to like the corner pins like this. Something that's just a little bit easier to get to. I don't want to like put too much heat on the ribbon cable. So I flowed it, transferred it all to these corner pins. It's almost clear. Look at that. So we flux it, tweezer it down. So you can already see, just from the footage, like this is my second one as opposed to the first one. It's getting much more dialed in, much more comfortable with it, more efficient, etc. And for this, I like this chisel tip, nice and fat. Go over like 2 pins at a time. Sometimes if you need to focus on just one, you kind of just angle it right. And again, like before, we're just looking for Looking for where the teeth meet the pin or the pads on these resistors, and we want those teeth missing. We want to just see in its place a nice solder joint. You're mostly doing a swiping motion. You're only going to see me do very light drag soldering for bridge removal. A little drag in there. For the most part, I'm focusing on pins at a time. There it is. That's the via I should have soldered to before. Had to scrape it. It's all good. Totally accessible. Not a problem. The old reach around again. It's all about getting that weird angle and tacking it in. And the same old shit here. It's even harder on this one because we've got some components in the way, so we've got to come at a steeper angle. Yeah, it's the alignment's the tough part here. That's it. Once it's locked in, it's gravy. Fold it quick, just like that. Reach around and make sure the traces are golden for both sides. If they're burgundy blackish, cable's upside down. And here we've got reset. I remember fiddling with this because we've got the mod chip and the other one. So do that, this one comes up. It was rough, yeah. Like some fucking Three Stooges bit. And there we go. Try to remember to play some like corny British music there. Oh, lots of cuts. So here's what we're doing like we need to do this for both revisions. Gotta break that bracket, and you just take flush cuts, you bend it back and forth. Okay, so it looks a little odd here. So I had a PSU on this one that wouldn't fit the metal shield. It was in the way. I cut it, wasn't enough. So big ups Ludwig over on the Pixel Effects Discord came up with this strat of just desoldering it and then snipping it. I've got these big metal cutting scissors. Just gave it a snip. So we've got 3 pads, and they're kind of bent, so like this was installed and then these tabs were kind of twisted a bit, so it's kept in place before soldering. So I wicked it up and just kind of bent them back into place. Doesn't take that much wicking. I added fresh solder just to make my life a little bit easier. This is unleaded stuff here by default, so add some leaded, bring down the melting temp a bit. Just wick it up good. If you've got your desoldering gun, that might be beneficial here. But yeah, it's just a matter of wicking it Just getting it out. Also a screw on the other side, locking the voltage regulator into it, so you're going to need to remove that screw. Just kind of give it a wiggle. Once you've wicked it out properly, it should come right out. If not, wick it up some more. Once you got it out, just give it a snip. And this is not mandatory on every 50,000. This was a Japanese ceramic white, so you might run into this, you might not. But yeah, if your gem does not fit in the console, you're gonna have to trim this heat shield. Take some pretty strong tools to get through it as well. And there it is, all trimmed. Solder back into place, screw the V-reg in, and you're good. And I captain taped it too, just to be safe. Don't want anything getting shorted out on a power supply. That would not be good. And here it is, all installed. Antenna routed back by that capacitor. Very nice. And here we are, booting up. Bring up the menu when we can with L1, R1, circle, and D-pad right. I want to get into the browser here. And we go into System, Debug, Self-Test, and run it. And you should get a bunch of hearts. Make sure you're in the browser. If you're on the main screen, it's going to be too dark, and you might not get full hearts. Now you're going to see this jitter. Talk to Dan. I guess that's a deinterlacing thing that you might get with the basic edition. So it's not doing that on my TV, but my capture card's doing this like jerking up and down kind of a deal. You can see it behind the OSD. Yeah, that's a Bob deinterlacing thing. I'm using an Elgato HD whatever, the PCI Express one, the internal one. And yeah, you get a little bit of jitters here and there. So probably gonna want to either upgrade or use an external scaler, which is what I plan to do. Run this into my Tink 5X until the 4K comes out, and I either buy a Morph or I grab the Tink 4K, whichever one seems better in my setup. I'll have to see as they both come out, but yeah, you'll see that shimmering going on. I'm really, I would like to do a test to see how this looks with the if I'm running it into my Tink 5X, so going HDMI out on the PS2 with the gem, going into an HDMI to component, then running that into the Tink, and then that's going to do the upscaling. Should handle the deinterlacing, and I'd like to see how that compares to analog, but that's for another video. Well, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is the PS2 gem install. Leave a like if you liked it. Subscribe if you're new around here. Comment if you want to see something else in particular. And yeah, this isn't meant to be a full-on replacement for the written guide. Highly recommend also using that. This is just supplemental, going over some techniques, some things I ran into, ideas of how to improve the install process. Don't use Captain Tape. I use leaded. These are my opinions. whatever. But yeah, either way, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.